any way of verifying that?
You can hear it. You can hear it from here.
Oh. Okay.
Right. Go ahead. Then council, you can start asking questions.
I'm sorry, I thought.
Is he appearing on the screens at home, or is this? Okay, so you could see him at home. Okay. So we'll just,
And this is the property appraiser.
yes, it's a property appraiser.
Okay. Does he have any statement he wants to make before we start questions so that we're not repeating what he's going to say?
No, thank you.
Okay. May I have?
Go ahead.
Okay. I do have a question there. In the PowerPoint that was given to us by the Department of Transportation on the August 2017 meeting, they then did responses to questions, and there was a question about the property value, to which the Department of Transportation said no, research had shown that there was going to be no impact to property value. Do you have any input on if there would be any impact to property value with the Southwest 87th Avenue Bridge?
It is difficult to predict or anticipate what the bridge will do in terms of property value. Our assessments are based on prior year sales, and we would need to see how the market behaves once the bridge is put up. It really will depend on the buyers and sellers and how they perceive the bridge, whether it's a positive or a negative.
And then a follow-up question to that. Pinecrest is located north of Palmetto Bay and already has a complete traffic grid. In general, would you say that Pinecrest property values are higher than those in general in Palmetto Bay?
I mean, in general, maybe. The values tend to be a little higher, but again, I think it's based more on location and proximity and to the central core. I don't think necessarily that it would have anything to do with the, I guess, the traffic or throughput of 87th Avenue, if we're talking about that specifically.
Right, I definitely would agree, and that there's more going on in property value than traffic. Clearly, that's kind of the point I was making. Because my understanding is that Pinecrest average house value, I'm sorry, I can't put my hands on something to reference for you right now, but I think it's kind of common knowledge that Pinecrest property values are higher than that of Palmetto Bay. And they do have a complete traffic grid. And would it be possible for you to get back to us in comparison, let's say, for instance, well, since 82nd Avenue is the same thing as 87th Avenue, would you be able to compare the property values for us of Pinecrest houses on 82nd Avenue north of the bridge of that's just north of 144th Street, as compared to property values of those houses on 82nd Avenue south of 144th Street? Is that something you could request for him to get back to us? Or is there, how do we go about doing that besides just going on Zillow?
Well, we provide each city with a copy of their tax roll. So you should have detailed information for each area within Palmetto Bay. However, we would be more than happy to work with you and see if we can provide you any additional information that you feel may be necessary.
I think,
However,
oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say, in terms of comparison, I don't know if that would be a fair comparison, because they're really two different markets, two different areas. And, you know, it would be similar to you comparing yourself to an unincorporated area of Miami-Dade County.
Correct. That's why, let me specify. Let's make it as clear a comparison as possible. Palmetto Bay on 82nd Avenue from 100 and, after the bridge, which is just after 141st Street. It's a small section of houses before 136, before you are no longer Palmetto Bay. Those few houses versus the houses on 82nd Avenue south of 144th Street to say 168th Street. And I'd like to compare those property values, both south and north of that bridge. And I'd also like to see what the property values are again. And I'm focusing on the arterial road, Southwest 82nd Avenue, that has the completed bridge. That's what 87th is going to be like. So also compare the property value of Pinecrest houses on 82nd Avenue, north of 136th Street. I would like to be able to compare those numbers. Obviously, Pinecrest has more than just, it's more than traffic that brings Pinecrest value up. But those three things, the 82nd Avenue and Palmetto Bay south of 144th, 82nd Avenue north of that bridge, but still part of Palmetto Bay, and then 82nd Avenue north of 136, so it's technically part of Pinecrest. I would love to be able to compare those home values.
Okay. If you don't mind, if someone can send me in writing the specific parameters in terms of the boundaries. Is it everything north of there, or is it, do you want to see things within a particular radius? We will be more than happy to provide you with that information.
Mr. Clayton's raising his thumbs. They'll be able to forward that on to you.
Okay, perfect.
Anybody else have any questions?
Anybody else have a question for the property appraiser? No.
I have a question. Mr. Solis?
Yes.
Good evening. I'm trying to understand a little bit on a project of this magnitude. I mean, I'm assuming that we've had it in the past, regardless of the area and stuff like that. How has the property around the area, how's the property value around the area, how was it affected? Do you have any previous works of something similar to this and how the area was affected around it that's already been established? Has it affected
No.
property? You have no studies?
No, because I mean, to be honest with you, we don't look at properties in that microcosm. We look at entire neighborhoods or square miles when we do our assessments and our analysis. And to give you an idea, if standard homes are selling for, let's say, 300,000 in a particular neighborhood, and then we see sales that somehow indicate lesser value, we will then drill down to see what it is. Usually it's something like maybe they're up against a highway, or they're up against, let's say, backing up to a commercial shopping center, which makes those properties less attractive. So then we apply an adjustment to account for that lesser value. But typically, in the two neighborhoods that have been referenced, they seem pretty homogeneous in nature. And without drilling down a little bit further, it would be very difficult to say, yes, there is a positive or negative effect by having a road that does cross the canals.
All right, thank you.
I have a question. Speaking for the area south of the proposed bridge known by the community as Malbrook, and those homes on 87th Avenue where the traffic has become crippling, have those homes decreased in value since the traffic has increased in the past 4 to 5 years?
Okay, again, I apologize. We have not done any studies or analyzed either one of these areas to that level of detail.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Mr. Clayton, would it be possible to reach out to the Department of Transportation and Public Works and ask them in reference to the answers they gave to this August 30th, 2017 presentation? Oh, lovely. That's right. So we can ask them what research they have that shows that there's going to be little to no impact in property value. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? So the statement that property values will decrease is I'm saying
There's
myth because there's nothing to say, there's no proof
Mhm.
and assessments that property values will decrease. That's just an opinion. It's not a fact. Okay, thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
a great
you.
night.
You too.
Who's next?
Mr. Chair, up next, we'll have Miami-Dade Police South Operations Chief, Mr. Richard Amion. We'll get him on right now.
Okay. Good evening, Major.
Good evening. How you doing?
Okay, are you aware of what we're doing is we're part of, I guess, as a fact-finding committee regarding the bridge on 87th Avenue. And I don't know that you're necessarily in charge of the Palmetto Bay Policing Unit, but it would be interesting, I guess, to get your perspective on the positive or negative impact that a bridge would have on police response times.
Well, one of the things is I'm the South Operations Division Chief. So under my tutelage is the Village of Palmetto Bay, as well as the Town of Cutler Bay, South District, Kendall, and Hammocks District. And I'm also a resident, so I'm very well aware of the situation and the request for the bridge. The one thing I want to emphasize is that the Miami-Dade Police Department has absolutely no position on whether or not to build the bridge. As far as the impact, it's very difficult to say until it's built, or maybe it's not built. But I can tell you right now, before it's built, we're providing professional service to the Village of Palmetto Bay. The calls for service are very minimal. The response times are fantastic. And whether or not it would create an effectiveness or efficiency for the police department is very difficult to tell until that time that it is actually built. And even after that, we don't know if it's contributed to 87th Avenue because for the most part, our dispatchers will give the officers calls in the areas that they're closer to. So that's probably why our response times are so low. So it's very difficult to say whether or not it's going to be positive or negative, but bottom line is whether or not it's built, we're going to still provide professional policing, and we will deal with either the bridge being built or the bridge not being built.
Okay, I'm sorry for the motion. What would you consider to be the most, outside of a medical response, the most important law enforcement related call that your agency would encounter, all your years of experience? Outside of a shooting, what would be something that when you hear the reference, I don't want to say you necessarily see the law, but what would that be? Burglary in progress, person at gunpoint, what?
Well, with my almost 30 years of law enforcement experience, I'll be very honest with you. Any police call is important. Whether it's a medical emergency, whether or not someone's being held hostage, whether or not it's a robbery, whether or not it's a shooting in progress, all of our calls are important.
Okay.
So for us, we don't dissect, we don't prioritize calls in the sense that we think that this one's more important than any. All calls are important. If our citizens call, we need to get there.
Right, okay, so, but you have kind of you have routine calls and you have calls that are classified as a 2 response, you have calls that are classified as a 3 response. So I guess 3 would be the highest priority response?
Yeah, well, there are emergency and priority calls. The emergency calls are with lights and sirens. The priority calls are trying to get there as quick as possible without lights and sirens, still obeying traffic laws and lights. So yes, they are prioritized, but they're not prioritized by us. They're prioritized by the Communications Bureau as they receive
Okay.
the call and they send it to us.
So in terms of response purposes on a, let's just say a category 3 call, there's something in your policy that allows the police officer to exceed the speed limit, and if so, by how much?
Well, that was an old adage, and our department would always have a certain miles per hour, but we've done away with that. So yes, you can exceed it as long as it's safe for the citizens at large. We don't give a category that you're allowed to exceed it by 5, 10, 15, 20 miles an hour, because if it's not safe, you shouldn't be doing it. But we do authorize you to go with lights and sirens. We do authorize you to allow that the intersections are cleared before you go through, because ultimately we don't want 2 tragedies, one that's occurring and a tragedy with the officer getting involved in an accident, trying to get to that emergency call.
Okay, understood. So would you say that it's true that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line?
Yeah, it depends on if you're talking about police work, sometimes taking a different route may be the best thing. I can't commit to that because I've been doing it for a long time. Sometimes, yes, you could go directly to a certain point, but sometimes officers may take a different route because they know the neighborhood and they know the safer route. And sometimes they're able to kind of combat it by taking a different route.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Michelle.
How many more people do we have testifying after him? Just transit. Okay, and we are at 7:30. Do we know how many calls are on? I just want to know before I get too far into detail with more questions with him. "46 people attending, but nobody has their hands raised yet." Okay. So, sir, you say that I'm sorry, I don't follow. I thought that Palmetto Bay had their quasi-owned police department versus Cutler Bay, but you're in charge of both?
I'm in charge of 5 districts to include Village of Palmetto Bay, Town of Cutler Bay, Hammocks, Kendall, and the South District. They are
Thank you.
contracted city for Miami-Dade Police Department.
Gotcha. Okay, I do not understand that well enough. How many police officers are, I don't know if I'm using the right word, assigned to Palmetto Bay?
I don't have that information. I could send it to you if you email me. I could tell you exactly
No.
how many officers.
Well, my thought process was, if you have a 3-car call, I was just wondering if you have 3 people north of the bridge at that time, or if some of them would have to come from the south or vice versa. As Mr. Paul was starting to point out about the straight line, I'm just thinking about if it's one of those 3-call emergency calls where they might be needing to put their sirens on and go real fast. I'm trying to count how many more intersections and turns they have to make to continue going on 87th Avenue down small streets where there's kids and basketballs and all sorts of things. And I don't know if they would stick to the arterial roads, and if I should think in my head that they're going from 87th to 82nd to 168th back to 87th, or if they would be wiggling through, especially if there's traffic, in which case that's a dozen. I mean, that's so many more turns and intersections and wiggles. So I was just trying to imagine where these police would be coming from if there was an emergency right next to either the north or south of 87th Avenue Bridge.
It all depends on where the officers are at the time. They strategically place the officers in certain areas in Village of Palmetto Bay, and really all the districts. So a call that's given to them by the dispatchers, they have what's called the automatic vehicle locator, device. So a lot of times they know exactly where the officers are at, so they can actually give them a call that's closer to them. And it just depends. I mean, a call may be given to them where they don't have an issue with the canal. They're right there by the area. Any responding officers that may have to come, if they're not right there, would have to just take the safest route to get to the call.
Okay, so assuming that there's an officer or two in the area, but if there's a 3-officer call, there's not necessarily 3 officers right there, right next to that spot. So one of those officers, I would think probability wise, I know you can't commit to such an answer, but I'm just thinking in my head that probability wise, at least one of those officers is either going to have to go around because the bridge doesn't go through however many turns or intersections, or come from farther away on whatever side the emergency already is. That's,
Well, That's just, unfortunately, that's just police work in every district. Not every district has a straight route to every call. And it can happen in South District and it can happen in the north end of the county. At times, there's an officer close and there's an officer that may have to take different routes. And that's just in every district. That's not just in this circumstance.
definitely. I'd love to minimize it in other districts as well. There's other bridges I'm trying to get built too. I would love,
Okay.
I advocate for the Hialeah Miami Lakes Bridge as well. This isn't just a Palmetto Bay issue. This is a county issue, and I definitely support a complete traffic grid to minimize response times all throughout the county, not just in the south, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is any?
I'm ready.
Oh.
Hi. A lot of people who live north of the bridge are opposed to this bridge being connected because they believe that it will bring traffic, I'm sorry, not traffic, well, it'll bring traffic too, but it will bring crime to their quiet, pristine neighborhoods. So can you speak about what is the crime rate in the Palmetto Bay area? And if such a bridge would, turn them into a crime-riddled community?
I don't know the specifics about the amount of crimes, but I believe it's under 30 for the year to date for targeted crimes. As far as crime increasing because of a bridge or additional traffic, that's not something that the police department would actually have as far as the relations between an opening of an arterial roadway and crime as it is, because what we do is we respond. We provide proactive patrol, but in addition, if there is a crime pattern in a certain district or a certain area, we're just going to put additional officers in there. So I can't tell you that there will be an increase in crime. I can't tell you it's going to stay the same. And I really can't tell you if it'll even decrease. But I will tell you that if something does occur, we will address it.
So the people who are concerned that this is going to bring all the crime to their community should be assuaged by the feeling that should such unhappened crimes occur, that the police would respond in a timely manner.
Absolutely. That's our job. That's what we get paid for.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
I have a follow-up question to that as well. Do you happen to know if Pinecrest, and I bring up Pinecrest because they're the neighbor to the north and because they happen to have a complete traffic grid. Do they have a higher crime rate than Palmetto Bay?
Ma'am, you know what? I really don't know. Unfortunately, I can tell you I'm only concerned with my 5 districts and make sure that they provide the best policing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay. I had asked for from your department, any significant auto pedestrian incidents within Palmetto Bay.
I was not made aware of that. I can get that from the major from the village of Palmetto Bay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, are we done with Miami-Dade Police? Okay, thank you for your time, Division.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay blessed. Thank you.
Have a wonderful
you.
evening.
Thank you. You do the same, ma'am.
Eve, do you have something that you want to say? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Up next, we have the Miami-Dade Department of Transportation and Public Works, Ms. Claudia Diaz.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody.
Welcome.
Can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Claudia Diaz, Chief of the Traffic Division for Miami-Dade. We reviewed this area for a request that we got about 3 to 4 years ago due to the congestion on 87th Avenue and 168th Street. Therefore, we did an analysis that comprised the area of 152nd Street, 168th, Old Culture Road, and 87th Avenue. With that analysis, we were able to identify that the benefits that you would get in this area due to the already installed traffic circles on 168th Street and 87th and 82nd Avenue, and the opening or installation of this bridge on 87th Avenue will provide tangible, immediate improvements operationally to this area, and will reduce the delay that we have in terms of traffic for this corridor. In general terms, and we have all experienced traffic through the summer where school is not in session, you do get a reduction of about 4% in traffic. With this study, we were able to identify that the benefit was much greater than that. Only on 87th Avenue, 168th Street, you have a 1 minute per vehicle delay improvement, which is about 10% if you take into account the overall intersection. And on 82nd Avenue, you have an improvement of 4 minutes per vehicle traversing this intersection, which equates to about 40%. So in terms of numbers, it may not seem like a lot, but in terms of driving this intersection, you will have a much better commute in the mornings and in the afternoons. Not only by opening these, by creating this connection, you will have a better connectivity, but you will also solve a lot of the issues that we're having with cut-through traffic north and south of 168th Street. Because again, if people cannot be able to move fast enough through the major corridors, they will go to local residential streets, creating other sorts of problems. So we do believe that the opening of this, the construction of this bridge and the connection to 87th Avenue will create relief that we need, for 82nd Avenue, and absolutely improve the concrete traffic issues that we have in the area.
I have a question.
Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead.
What exactly would be the decrease in the rush hour traffic per day if this bridge were created?
So like I said, we estimated the decrease in delay in terms of minutes per vehicles, right? So in 87th Avenue and 168th Street, it will be about 10%. So if you take a look right now, pre-COVID, of course, you had a peak hour traffic in the morning of 4 hours. And with the opening of the bridge, we will be able to reduce it to only 2.5 hours. So your commute will be a lot shorter just because you're able to move more vehicles through the intersection in a shorter amount of time.
So the people who are suffering with the gridlock in their driveways would have that reduced to only 2.5 hours instead of 4 hours in the morning.
Correct. In the morning and in the afternoon, because you do have that same pattern in the morning going north and in the afternoon going south.
So it would be reduced to 2.5 hours in the morning and 2.5 in the afternoon?
Correct.
Instead of 4 and 4?
Correct.
That's a reduction of 1.5 hours in both peak periods.
My second question that came from a community member is, if the bridge was recommended 40 years ago up until the 2 to 3 years ago, how is traffic looking now with the new development south of Cutler Bay?
Okay, so I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but Miami-Dade County does not impose any restrictions on zoning for the municipalities. What I can tell you is that I did an analysis of what the volume was when we did the analysis in 2017 to what the volume is now. And we found that there was an increase in traffic of 14% on 87th Avenue and 16% on 82nd Avenue, north of 168th Street.
So It's gotten worse since the bridge was voted down in 2017.
Volume has increased, yes.
Okay. Um,
May I interrupt?
yes,
Sorry, just to follow up on that point.
go ahead.
When you say that you did this new analysis of numbers, this 14% increase on 87th Avenue and 16% increase on 82nd Avenue north of 168th Street, is that even during COVID quarantine time?
No, so the numbers were obtained from the Florida Department of Transportation website, which is, it's clear for everybody to go through. And the data that they have, the most recent data is from 2019.
Okay. There's been a lot more building since then. Please continue. Go ahead.
Why has the bridge not been built in the past 40 years, despite its continual recommendation by your department?
I will not be able to tell you a lot more of 40 years back. The department did put an item together through the TPO to be able to move forward with the construction of the bridge in 2018. Unfortunately, at TPO, it got voted negative, so we couldn't move forward with the project.
And the last question is from another community member. She wants to know if the speed bumps throughout the village of Palmetto Bay are all legal. Some of them don't have reflectors, some of them don't have signage.
I will have to get back to you on that one. If you guys can give me the specific locations, we do have an interlocal agreement with many municipalities, including them, and they have to abide by specific requirements to be able to install them. They do have to maintain them, and they do have to comply with the MUTCD, which is a standard that all engineers have to abide by for the traffic calming. So if you can give me a little bit more information in maybe which locations, we can absolutely get back to you.
We'll get it to you. Thank you. I think that's all my questions. Thank you. Oh, wait, I have one more. Sorry. This week, Palmetto Bay approved their downtown development area, which is, when fully built, to encompass 6,500 apartments. I think roughly 700 of them have already been built. How is that going to affect the traffic in the Palmetto Bay area?
So they did do a traffic analysis that they submit, I want to say about 2 years ago, if not a little bit more. We did have a sit down with them of the different improvements that they have to do. I don't have that report or those results with me right now. Again, we could get back to you on that, but they did submit a traffic analysis for the overall downtown development that they have.
So either way, 6,500 apartments is going to bring more cars, right?
Right. Like I said, we have no jurisdiction at this time to be able to prohibit or limit any type of development in the municipalities. What we could do is that once that development, that density has been approved through the municipalities, we require everybody, even development, cities, depending on who is leading the effort, to provide with us a traffic study so that we can see what offsite improvements need to be done. That's as much as I can tell you.
Last one, I promise. What are the solutions if the bridge isn't built for the cut through traffic in the two neighborhoods that are suffering the most?
Unfortunately, right now, and with all the analysis we have done, the different signage that we have been able to put temporary and permanently, there's no other solution. I mean, I know we have overall other things that Miami-Dade County, we are absolutely working on, like smart plans, signal optimizations on US 1. We are currently working on a design for 4 different circles along Old Cutler Road to also being able to move traffic faster. But every single piece of the puzzle is absolutely needed to be able to improve traffic in the area.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm done. Thank you, everyone.
I have no more questions for her. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, I have a question. The money is the money that, I believe it's $3.1 million.
Now,
Okay, and that's approved, that's budgeted. Where's that source of revenue coming from? Is that impact fees?
At this time, since it's not a project, I cannot assure you that we have the money in place. But we do have, and we are absolutely willing to do this improvement, and the money will come from road impact fees. Yes, because it is a direct connection to improving operation and connectivity to the corridor. And at that time, when we put the item together, the money was coming from road impact.
yeah,
And did you say that there would be a 40% reduction of traffic on 82nd Avenue? Earlier?
Sorry?
Did you say that there would be you mentioned some earlier numbers in terms of the impact the 87th Avenue Bridge would have, and did you say that there would be a 40% reduction in the traffic on 82nd Avenue?
In delay. We would have a 40% reduction in delay on 82nd Avenue. So when we do the analysis, we're able, with the different tools that we have, with the different model systems that we have, we were able to determine that by opening these, by creating this additional connection, the traffic will even out, right? Right now, we only have one route, which is 87th North, then you go east on 168, and then up on 82nd Avenue. And it's the same scenario going southbound. So by having an additional connection, you will have a reduction of what we were able to estimate of 4 minutes per vehicle through this intersection, which means that the delay would be about 40% reduced within the intersection or through the intersection.
My last question is, on US 1, do you construct the traffic signals on US 1, or is that Department of Transportation, Florida Department of Transportation?
That is Florida Department of Transportation.
So they talk about 87th Avenue, dead ends at 141st Street. 141st Street accesses US 1. At 82nd Avenue, a dead ends at 120th Street. 120th Street accesses US 1. Whoever had the regulatory authority put a traffic signal at 120th Street, which allows vehicles to access US 1 from 120th Street exiting A2 Avenue. Is that something that putting a traffic signal at 141st Street to help move the traffic out that either you would recommend or whoever the sponsoring agency is to do that, to put a traffic signal 141st Street?
Well, we did not include US 1 as part of this study. What we noticed is that those vehicles that we will go north of 152nd Street will already be there. Of course, you have more traffic because now you have this more direct connection. But the people that are already on 82nd Avenue that want to access US 1 at 141st are already there, whether they move from 82nd or from 87th, you already have them there. So we don't foresee, at this time, we don't foresee an influx that would actually trigger a traffic signal at US 1. However, like we all know, traffic fluctuates, and I'm sure that if at some point it's needed for evaluation, FDOT will take it upon consideration. We will have to check with them.
Thank you. Any other committee members have?
The cars that are going to use this new bridge, where will they go? Because the community up there seems to think they're going to use their quiet neighborhoods for cut through. What do you anticipate, from your professional opinion, will happen with those cars?
Traffic is already cutting through. Traffic is cutting through because you don't have the connection. So the roads are already being utilized. The local roads are already being utilized by this traffic. So by creating a more direct connection, you will be able to remove them from the local streets and put them in this corridor. Another thing that is important, very important to point out, is 87th Avenue is a section line road. So Miami-Dade County is built on a grid. You have section line roads and half section line roads. In general, and as a rule of thumb, the avenues that end in 7 are the section line roads, and the avenues that end in twos are the section line roads. So 87th Avenue is the appropriate corridor for the majority of the vehicles to be able to move through the corridor. It is also important to point out that FDOT already classifies 87th Avenue as a major collector on the south side of 168th Street. So by doing the connection, we just continue the proper route that vehicles have to go through based on the grid that we have created.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle, do you have anything?
No, I love, it was a pleasure to listen to you.
Now, there was, the question was, it what her agency about the property values were asked about
Oh,
where they got that
thank you.
information?
I'm sure, you know, you probably weren't ready for this. I'm going a little bit farther
Yeah.
back. But if you could please look up, there was a very volatile meeting in August of 2017. Thank you. Yeah, I got it. You guys did a PowerPoint and then you did some follow-up questions. This is the responses by the Department of Transportation and Public Works to questions posed at the Southwest 87th Avenue public meeting on August 30th. And one of those questions that somebody asked was, will property value decrease because of the new bridge? And the official answer was no, research has shown no impact to property value. If it's at all possible, that whoever worked on that answer might be able to provide us with what research he was referencing, that would be appreciated.
No problem. We'll get back to you on that. Definitely, I'm not the right person for that question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
problem.
We're done. Have a great night.
Thank you, you too. Bye-bye.
I think he's waiting on you to say.
Okay, Vay, go ahead.
Oh, no. Committee members, this concludes the number of presentations that we had for this meeting. You can turn it over and conduct the rest of the meeting as you see, as you deem fit.
Should we take phone calls?
Actually,
What
before,
would you want to discuss? Let's go ahead and discuss. What would you like to do, Michelle?
well, because we were just doing the studies, for the people, for the experts that we couldn't get in and for the studies, for the people that we couldn't bring in to talk about their studies at the previous agenda, we had said that we would spend some time on the studies that we couldn't get people in for. So I have a small summary. For the people following along at home, I do believe that some of these links are already there because it's stuff that I had emailed Mr. Clayton. I've been doing more research, so if it's not there, I apologize. It will be there after the fact. Some of it's also available on the website www.buildthebridges.org. But so we'll have the links for you to see this yourself. So the first of them that I want to look at, I want to stay local first. The first one is the Palmetto Bay Traffic Calming Report from 2004, done by the Cordino Group. And I wanted to point out that those that we heard people say they're interested in doing everything else first and getting creative and trying other solutions before the bridge. This was it. This study was it. This was all that was recommended. Most of it has since been implemented since this was 2004. So some of the things that they tried, those creative ideas and trying anything else, they tried. Some of the things suggested were raised intersections.
They didn't make any of those.
They did not. Okay. Traffic circles, raised crosswalks, and there's illustrations about what they mean in these.
They did a little crosswalk stuff.
Okay. Speed humps,
Yes, many,
speed tables,
many.
chicane. Some of this terminology, you have to look at the picture. If you want to
They
look,
put in no chicanes. There were
Chicane.
some already that in existence before 2004, I think, but they
Well,
didn't put any new ones in.
and those are similar to chokers, which I think we do have behind Perrine, or is that the chicane?
I think those were there before.
Okay. And then neck downs, again, you'd have to look at these pictures. Hopefully you can follow along on the links. Half closures, median barriers, etc. So they've gone through all of that else, everything but the kitchen sink. And yet still on page 24 of this Cordino group, they recommend a complete traffic grid. And I quote, if the grids were complete, traffic would be able to flow north and south on 77th Avenue 82nd Avenue, 87th Avenue, 92nd Avenue, and 97th Avenue. This cannot occur because 87th Avenue is disrupted by a canal north of 164th Street. 77th Avenue is disrupted twice by canals, and 97th Avenue is interrupted by US 1. The result is that traffic flows on just a few of these streets as it attempts to find its destination. It generally flows along the 87th Avenue, 168th Street, 82nd Avenue, 152nd Street, 77th Avenue north of 152nd Street. The patterns show the heaviest flow northbound in the morning and southbound in the afternoon. So that was Cordino from 2004. The second one, let's put this over here, is the second thing I wanted to bring to your attention was the Palmetto Bay Resolution number 2016-131 from December of 2016. It's a traffic redirection pilot program. And because the streets involved in this redirection program were east of Southwest 87th Avenue, they were already past the circle. Perhaps they felt safe enough, since they didn't think it was an 87th Avenue bridge thing they were talking about. Perhaps they felt safe enough to speak frankly, because they are quoted in their own resolution as saying, whereas historical and recent traffic data studies of the above named streets indicate these streets are functioning as major arterial roadways and cannot continue to do so in a safe and effective manner. Of course, the same holds true to the side streets that are being used as arterial roadways due to Southwest 87th Avenue not going through. And Palmetto Bay has admitted to the safety problem, they just don't like the solution. So the next, by the way, there's plenty of resolutions.
Pretty sure that resolution.
Can I
is in
speak to
reference Mulbrook.
that one? So where, let me understand this, there are side streets that are being used because 87th Avenue isn't going through. The cut through traffic is accessing side streets.
Actually, this resolution, at first glance, you think it's about Malbrook, it's not. Again, Malbrook, and they wouldn't have been so candid about that. They wouldn't have defended the safety of the small streets because that would have been suggesting that 87th Avenue would have gone through. This is actually the area, what I call the rectangle. The area east of the canal, east of Malbrook, underneath Southwood. And obviously, I think this traffic was caused by people going south off of 168th Street to go east to avoid the 82nd Avenue circle, because they're actually just trying to drop kids off at Southwood. It's that neighborhood, the rectangle south of 168th Street. That's the reason they were so free with their language in defending the safety of side streets. You don't hear that language in defending Malbrook.
Possible.
So I have a question about the side streets. So the side streets have no sidewalks. So the pedestrians, the bicyclists are actually sharing the roadway with the cut through traffic?
Yes.
Correct.
Installed no right turn signs in some neighborhoods, but they aren't enforced. And so they don't work effectively.
Okay, continue. Thank you.
No problem. So the third local issue would be the Village of Palmetto Bay's village-wide traffic calming study from July 2017 done by Marlin. And now, so after the Cordino recommended the bridge in the 2004 report, Palmetto Bay specifically instructed Marlin to not address the Southwest 87th Avenue Bridge in their 2017 traffic calming study. So you're not going to see a big woohoo there. However, they did again recommend all the other they did recommend all the other minor traffic calming items. Most were duplicated from the 2004 Cordino study, to which my colleague says not all of them have been implemented. So they've had plenty of time to try those creative ideas. They're, we don't need to stop now and delay now to try more creative ideas. They've been suggested for a while. But I'd like to bring attention to page 25 of the eligible segments and recommendations, because they kind of snuck something in anyways. They said the primary approach is to improve mobility and operational ratios on arterials and collectors to redirect most of the traffic away from residential streets. So they couldn't outright mention Southwest 87th Avenue, but they do say the best solution is to direct traffic onto the arterial collectors and the arterial roads and off the residential streets. And this is precisely what building the Southwest 87th Avenue Bridge would do. It would help keep traffic on an arterial road. So we're going to go at this point, this is just how I organize this. We're going to go outside of local Palmetto Bay. We're going to get into county now. Before we get into
I
county.
have a question.
Sure.
So we don't have the Palmetto Bay Village Manager here, budget.
Actually,
Is it? Go ahead.
I'd like to request that we have the former Palmetto Bay Village Manager, Ed Silva, come and speak with us next. week.
Okay, that would be good. Ed Silva, we'll schedule him for the next meeting and we can certainly ask.
Do we need to do a motion?
No, I think it's well intended that,
Okay.
that's our intent. It's a friendly motion. That
Okay, we'll have
we
to-
can have Ed Silva come in
have to go talk.
and speak to us about that. Okay.
And he was the manager during this last hoo-ha.
Okay, continue. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to go into county. And if we're going to go into county, we're going to talk about why we're talking about county anyways. I thought, some people say this road, this bridge is in Palmetto Bay. Why isn't this a Palmetto Bay issue? I then direct you to the Home Rule Amendment and Charter for Miami-Dade County, Florida. Article 1, Board of the County Commissioners. It's labeled as page 11, but if you're following along at home, there's pages in the front that aren't actually labeled. So section 1.01 powers. The board's power, and I'm quoting, I apologize, quoting, the board's powers shall include, but shall not be restricted to, the powers to, number 1, provide and regulate arterial, toll, and other roads, bridges, tunnels, and related facilities. Eliminate grade crossings, provide and regulate parking facilities, and develop and enforce master plans for the control of traffic and parking. So this is just a little reminder that this is a county issue. It doesn't matter what neighborhood an arterial road happens to be in, it is still a county bridge and a county road and a county issue. So now that that's reminder is established, we're going to go on to the transportation plan for Metropolitan Dade County, Florida, long-range element. This is the one with the yellow in the front. For those of you guys following along at home, this one's pretty obvious. It's been available for a while. This is the infamous 40-year-old recommendation. On page 18, item number 93 recommends the Southwest 87th Avenue Bridge. It's important to understand that the forward from 2000, because this is not the original, this is the original recommendation staging of implementation from December of 1978. However, as some people like to try to say, that's a 40-year-old recommendation. No, it started 40 years ago. They've updated it since. And in the forward from 2000, there's notes that these are the long-range proposals. These are not short-term solutions. Please note that while the 87th Avenue Bridge has been recommended for over 40 years, it is not the only or latest recommendation. Even the link provided has an update from 2000, and please see all the other sources on this page for additional and more recent recommendations, including, moving on to, the arterial grid analysis, phase 2 work order, number GPC V05 from January 2014 by Kimley Horn and Associates, Inc. This is the one with this front page. Page 3, the study objectives. This study is intended to determine potential improvements to the arterial grid system for long-term traffic congestion relief, rather than the short-term stopgap improvements that may slightly improve traffic flow in one corridor while shifting the problem to a different corridor. I wish that wasn't so long because it's a perfect slogan. This is exactly what we're talking about. This is long-term and it's not just shifting. So on page 19 through 21 and on pages 36 through 38, that's where they recommend the Southwest 87th Avenue Bridge. One's a recommendation, one's pretty colors and pictures. Page 19 also specifically says that US 1 is the only north-south roadway that crosses the C100 canal between Southwest 117th Avenue and Old Cutler Road. which severely limits north-south mobility options in the area. After this, we would move on to the Miami-Dade County PowerPoint presentation from August 2017, which she mentioned a lot of what was done here. And then the questions and answers. I would direct people, when you have the option, if you can't yet, you will soon be able to read these questions and answers. Please do so. It's not long, it's not hard, it's not a bunch of jargon, it's just individual people's questions and the answers too. So this PowerPoint shows you the actual intersections that she was referencing, and it calculates the time saving at important intersections. And the takeaway is that the individual vehicle time savings adds up to 3-hour overall reduction in peak rush hour traffic. That's cutting 1.5 hours off of both the AM and PM rush hour peaks. We are moving on to, and this one's a doozy. Please don't try to print this out and walk away from your printer because it's 180 something pages. This is the TPO meeting of Thursday, January 25th, 2018 documentation. First, it's important to note the majority of the TPO members did not vote yes or no on the Southwest 87th Avenue Bridge. Commissioner Levine Cava voted no, and the others deferred to her vote. Also of note, within the 182 pages, you do not find any of the actual traffic studies. You do see traffic studies pertaining to other traffic issues that were voted on. And something that you'd want to look at towards the beginning. So when you open it up, you don't have to go far. It's towards the beginning. All of the 87th Avenue is in the beginning of this stuff. Is the recommendation letters for the Southwest 87th Avenue. The pages aren't actually labeled here, but it's actually page 4 if you were printing or if you're scrolling, is the letter from the Transportation Planning Council officially recommending the Southwest 87th Avenue Bridge as part of the long-range transportation plan. That item was sponsored by the Department of Transportation and Public Works and Dennis Fernandez, who's the bridge engineer manager. And again, the pages aren't labeled, but actually page 6 and 9, if printed, is the letter from Alice Bravo, who is the Director of Department of Transportation and Public Works, recommending the Southwest 87th Avenue Bridge. That's what I have for the studies for now, but I'm not 100% finished with all of my research. If I come up with anything else additional, I'll bring it up with the next meeting. Because it's important that the people have easy access to the sources and the studies and the facts. So some of this can be overwhelming. So I will be posting my summary because I think it makes it more accessible, more available. You can find the links, you can find the pages.
Where's that site going to be?
Well, I believe that they're going to have the links to everything without my commentary, because obviously they've got to stay neutral.
Okay,
The links to everything should be available after the fact on this page, like they were previously. I've submitted it all to Mr. Clayton, so they'll be going to the TPO. And then, of course, I will be submitting it with my summary, with my summary is not neutral. So with my summary on the Facebook page, the Miami-Dade traffic discussion page, and then also on the website, www.buildthebridges.org. Because I want this to be as accessible as possible to people who don't have the time that I took to go through all this material.
Thank
Leo, do you have anything you'd like to?
I just suggest that we reserve 15 minutes at the end of the meeting to discuss our plan for the report that we need.
Yeah, we're doing very well with the time. We still have 55 minutes left. Would you like to? Yeah, let's take some calls and.
Then we'll
Then
start at 7:45 and we can talk about the report that we need to write.
Yeah, we definitely need to talk about the report, and I know that you've offered to author the report. So I think whatever we want in the report, we can go through the commissioner's office to go to you that you compile. We can certainly at next meeting, have Ed Silva come in, whomever didn't appear today that'd like to come in and give us at least an hour to talk about the report. Tell me, Michelle, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you gave me a good thought. Mr. Clayton? Do we actually have to take time away from the meeting to do the report? Because it seems to me like we would want to finalize the report after we've heard everything from the meeting. So after the meetings are over, can we then communicate with each other? Or for instance, can we then send our thoughts through you? Yes, that's the yes. Okay, so we don't have to take away meeting time and people don't have to watch us sit here and make a report. Great. So at the end of the meeting, even if we end it early next time, we will then compile everything, send it to you and go back and forth and write. I swear you almost know ASL. Thank you for your wonderful sign language.
So we'll open it up. To your point about the home rule charter, I absolutely agree that it's the county's decision. In fact, I'm willing to say that new incorporations incorporated under the fact that the county would still hold regional control. And this is certainly one of them. You know, if the county owned 100 acres in an area and they wanted to build a dump for the good of the county, they would retain that right to do that. So let's go ahead and take callers.
Committee, we have 3 callers on the line right now. The first one is Todd Kudelka. And Mr. Kudelka, you are unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Uh-oh.
sir.
Oh, very good.
I'm gonna keep the time.
Oh, yes. And we're going to do it after he says his address, right?
Sounds good.
I'll do it. Give me a second. 3
3 minutes after they say the address or 2 minutes?
Usually 2 minutes. How many people are in line?
There are 4.
We don't, but I think that screen said that we had like 50 people watching. So maybe keep it to 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go 2 minutes and
Besides, that's what we did in previous.
that's fine. And then if their 2 minutes is up and they want to get back in line and speak additional, we can do that. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Todd Kudelka. My address is 8740 Southwest 158th Street. I strongly oppose the bridge due to all the anticipated costs to my local community. I'm not just talking about monetary property value, but the non-monetary parts, including our ability to safely walk, bike, skate around, including to our zoned schools. Nothing can convince me that the marginal temporary traffic relief by cutting through my residential streets to avoid US 1 and Old Cutler is worth the destruction of that capability. That said, I sympathize with people enduring their own cut-through traffic today, and I'm participating in these meetings because I'm keen to promote holistic solutions. I use public transportation and encourage investments in that area to ease car traffic. Acknowledging people are unlikely to give up their cars, we should also explore contraflow lane reversal, meaning the change direction of selects US 1 and turnpike lanes twice a day to improve rush hour traffic flow. It's already practiced in cities and referenced in Florida hurricane evacuation plans. I bet we can do it daily and provide some serious traffic relief all over the county. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
And the next caller on the line has a number ending in 159. Caller, you are now unmuted.
Go ahead, please.
Sometimes it takes a little bit.
Good evening, everyone. This is Adrian Enriquez. I live on 18420 Southwest 87th Avenue in Cutler Bay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
All right. All right. I'd like to first address the initial questions about property values asked to the property appraiser. And I think that if you're going to ask questions about market value, you should probably look to a opinion poll or market study instead of a historical analysis of land and real estate value to see, hey, ask someone, will you buy this home that lives on this busier street versus one not? Will it affect its property value? Gather an opinion pool. That's where that answer lies. If you want to look at a study also locally, between 57th Avenue between Miller and US 1, Coral Gables closed a lot of avenues that were cut through streets towards the University of Miami. It'd be interesting to see how those home values went. Secondly, I'd like to address the marginal increase of 1 minute delay, whatever, 14 of traffic per vehicle if the bridge is increased. My question is, has this study been analyzed with the increase in development, and at what point, on the timeline of time horizon, are we going to see that marginal gain is zero? And is it going to be in 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years? And then we end up with a problem where now we've attracted increased volumes into these neighborhoods, into Cutler Bay as well, because we said, hey, we have this flow, this cut through 87th Avenue now that goes all the way north. We're attracting increased traffic from the increased southern developments. So when is this marginal gain going to be diminished to zero and become a negative because it's attracted more additional volume? Going to be in the same place with more cut through traffic. That's all.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for your comments. Next caller, please.
Our next caller is Miguel Villalba. Miguel, you are now unmuted.
Okay, caller, go ahead. Thank you. Okay.
Our next caller is Antao Chen. Miss Chen, you are now unmuted.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Antao Chen. My address is 8601 Southwest 140th Terrace. I'm against this proposed bridge because this 87th Avenue, this bridge leads to another dead end, same as the current dead end at 106.46 Fifth Street. So what's happening, the congestion and cut through traffic through neighborhood streets will be moved to the new dead end. I can't imagine why this new dead end will be any different because it has no connectivity to US 1. At 141st Street and US 1, there's a stop sign, and in the morning traffic hours, the red light and 136th Street block the traffic.
If he's having connectivity issues and wants to call back in, I'm going to say that he only used 45 seconds.
Our next caller is Diane Hopkins. Miss Hopkins, you are now unmuted.
Hi, welcome. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Hi, welcome. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I oppose the bridge, and although I sympathize with the neighbor.
Address, please.
Oh, I'm
Address.
sorry, Diane Hopkins, 8720 Southwest 158th Street, Palmetto Bay. I oppose the bridge, and although I sympathize with the neighbors experiencing cut-through traffic, I fail to see how the bridge does anything other than move the problem to someone else's area. It makes no sense to spend millions of dollars and destroy the tranquility of another area to extend 87th Avenue 1 additional mile. It'll create new cut-through patterns and attract even more traffic to the area. Any gains made by the bridge will be lost to the additional traffic. There's very little traffic on non-school days. I drive it every day and I see that. There's very little to no traffic when school is out. I don't feel the bridge is the solution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Madeline. Madeline, you are now unmuted.
My name is Madeline Roman. I live at 9383 Southwest 182nd Street in Palmetto Bay. One of the things that I want to basically state based off of yesterday's task force meeting was the idea that Cutler Bay residents were not bringing their kids into Palmetto Bay. And to note to the last caller, the thing that the 87th Avenue Bridge brings is a safe passageway for children. So residents in Palmetto Bay that want to walk to those schools off of, I believe one of them is 160th, the middle school there. The other one is the elementary school on 152nd, and not to mention the high school off of 152nd on the west side of US 1. All of those schools can get basically a safe passageway for the students attending. And to state that basically our Cutler Bay students don't go to Palmetto Bay schools is a fallacy. My brother owned a house at 9016 Southwest 215th Street. My nephew went to the middle school right here, east of 82nd Avenue. So I think one of the things that we should also be focusing on is
30 seconds.
Thank you, is the safety that this particular bridge adds for all residents, not just those that are south, but for anybody crossing. It provides a safer route. That's all. Thank you.
If,
Go ahead. You want to have,
if you've got more battery life, and you want to take.
I do.
That's fine. I thought I had a backup.
Just in terms of timekeeping purposes for those that don't know what we're doing, we're keeping track of the time so that we're fair and non-discriminatory, that everybody gets 2 minutes pro bridge, anti-bridge.
Yeah, I'm missing my cord.
Okay, how many more callers do we have?
We have 4.
Because it,
Well, we have 2 minutes.
okay. Next, please.
Our next speaker is Bev Gerald. Bev, you are now unmuted.
Welcome, Bev. Go ahead and state your name and your address, please.
Our next speaker is Catherine. Catherine, you are now unmuted.
Hi, my name is Catherine Abraham. My address is 20659 Southwest 91st Court in Cutler Bay. And I want to say that I support the bridge. And I want to dispute one of the issues that the people that oppose the bridge of ending up at another dead end. Anybody that lives south of the bridge knows that after 152nd Street, the traffic will disperse. And the reason for that is you have multiple schools in that street on the east side and on the west side of 82nd Avenue and 87th Avenue. And then you also have the turnpike. So we all know that when there's no school in session, traffic is extremely light and you can just, breeze on through. So for those that say, oh, well, you're just going to end up at 144th Street or 141st. No, you're not. You're just, those people are the ones that are going to the Metro Rail or downtown or wherever else. But most of the traffic is going to be turning on 152nd Street most likely because they're going to the schools and they're going to the turnpike.
Okay, thank you so much for your comments. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker's name is Crisperson. Crisperson, you are now unmuted.
Welcome. Go ahead and state your name and address for the record, please.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, my name is Chris Person, and my address is 17220 Southwest 84th Avenue. Okay, what I want to say is that this, first of all,
Proceed, thank you.
I'm sorry? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, what I want to say is this. This
Yes,
is
you know
not a
what?
bridge.
There's a delay. He's gonna restart the timer for you. So when you,
Okay. Am I supposed to start now?
just don't say anything.
The-
Go ahead.
I support the bridge. The bridge is not a bridge to nowhere. It is a bridge to not one, not two, not three, but 4 arterial roads, 160th, 152nd, 144th, and also US 1. People that are on arterial roads tend to stay on arterial roads until they disperse. So the fallacy of side and cut through traffic is a fallacy. For the person who stated that he won't be able to walk his dog and he won't be able to skate in the street anymore, I submit that that is why 87th Avenue, which has a name, by the way, Galloway Road, an arterial road, has full easement and sidewalks for. Where we are in Malbrook, we are not designed, or are we up to code to handle the kind of volume that is coming through our streets. We do not have sidewalks. We do not have easements. Our houses are not set back. We do not have mature oak trees to protect us from car accidents, as there have been rollover accidents. Palmetto Bay does not have the money to continually enforce a police presence that is a 2-hour ordeal every day from 6:30 in the morning to 8:30 at night. You can pretend as much as you want, but nobody is being fooled by the fact that you live on an arterial road. It is an arterial road, 87th Avenue. It has a name, and you have benefited by the unintended privilege of living on that road as an incomplete grid for a while now. I'm glad you've enjoyed it, but that time has come to pass.
Thank you very much for that. Our next caller, please.
Looks like Bev Gerald was able to rejoin us. Bev, you are now unmuted.
Welcome. State your name and address for the record, please. Karen, next caller.
No, well,
Go ahead.
I would suggest if she hasn't hung up yet, give a couple seconds. I've tried to connect to one of these. This isn't Zoom, right? Y'all using that Adobe thing? Oh, you're using Zoom. Okay, never mind. So in case that sounds weird to everybody at home, I've done Cutler Bay Town Hall meetings before, and you guys use Adobe, right? In the beginning? Okay, that stuff was weird and I had trouble connecting. So I thought maybe she was experiencing the same thing. Okay.
Okay. Next caller, please.
The next speaker is Robert. Robert, you are now unmuted.
Welcome. State your name and address for the record.
Robert Bazzelli, 17140 Southwest 86th Avenue, Palmetto Bay, Florida. I am extremely pro-bridge. It will solve a tremendous amount of our traffic problems, and it will not move a problem from one neighborhood to another one on the north side of the canal. It will eliminate a cut-through traffic problem we have. And once the traffic gets north, it will be pass-through traffic, not cut through. I'm so sorry that the people up there have been indoctrinated by their elected officials to believe that they will be harmed if that road and that is connected. You will not. Your property values will not suffer, and neither will your quality of life. However, multiple neighborhoods in our village will see an increase in quality of life with fewer cut-through cars going through neighborhoods like mine and others. Every district in the village has to deal with cut-through traffic because we don't have a complete grid. So it's time to complete it, build the bridge, let's move forward, and let's unite our village instead of being divided. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next caller, please.
Okay, our next speaker is James Anderson. James, you are now unmuted.
Hi, state your name and address for the record, please. Hello?
Oh, hi, can you hear me?
Okay, hi, we hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. James Anderson, 18025 Southwest 87th Court. I'm actually opposed to the bridge. I think you're just gonna introduce more traffic into the area. It's basically a phenomenon called induced traffic. So yeah, it might eventually, help it a little bit. But I think the cut through traffic is still gonna happen regardless, because of how some of the schools are situated in the area. I guess my other question I think folks should consider is what they're going to do with 87th Avenue, because there's no streetlights on that road. So is this money just set aside for the bridge, or are they actually going to improve 87th Avenue as well? That's it. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Who's our next caller, please?
Our next caller is Madeline. Madeline, you're now unmuted.
Okay, good evening. Welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
Give it a hot minute, because that last person took a while too. Sometimes people have kids helping them figure out how to unmute. I'm dead serious. And there's no judgment in that.
Is this the last caller, or are there others afterwards?
I have someone who sent me an email about, I have someone who sent an email to me earlier because they had to attend a wait.
Yeah, did we get, did we get any written correspondence that needs to be read? Anything? Okay.
No, but she has one.
Okay, well, go ahead. Let me go ahead and read it.
Okay, this is from Irene Echeverria. She lives at 17200 Southwest 84th Avenue in Palmetto Bay. And she says, "Dear members of the CCC, as a resident of Palmetto Bay, I am writing to you to state my view on the bridging of 87th Avenue. I am without a doubt in favor of this bridge. We have been suffering for many years with the cut-through traffic in our small streets. 87th Avenue was made to withstand that traffic flow and has the sidewalks for continued safety. South Dade has suffered long enough. It's time to be heard. It's time for connectivity. It's time to build the bridge." Thank you.
Wonderful. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Madeline, you're back on. We've unmuted you.
Okay, so sorry about that. Again, Madeline, my address is 9383 Southwest 182nd Street. Really, it's more.
Madeline, I'm
Yes.
so sorry to interrupt you. I just want to make sure do we have any other callers on hold? No?
No, we do not.
Okay, so yes, if you have already spoken and you want to call back in for an additional time, we are at 8:30. We have time to do so. Madeline's going to be the first one to call back in for additional time because we have no one else waiting. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no time limit then if we have nobody else waiting, right?
No, let's just keep it.
Let's keep it at 2 minutes. Okay.
Fair.
Okay, go ahead and proceed.
I actually wanted to speak to the last gentleman that was essentially opposed to the bridge under the fallacy of induced demand. Induced demand typically is based off of an entirely new roadway. The bridge is connecting roads that currently exist. The road itself is an arterial roadway. As mentioned previously, the road has proper setbacks for the homes as well as the sidewalks to provide that safe route. As far as improvements such as lighting, we could use some lighting all over Miami-Dade County. Palmetto Bay is not the only location that we don't have lighting. There's no lighting on 184th. There's no lighting on 82nd, on 77, on 72nd, on 67th, all of which are in Palmetto Bay. So I'm not quite sure why we would be requesting that. The main point though is this is not induced demand. Perhaps that gentleman needs to spend a little time understanding what induced demand really entails. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so would you like to,
There's more callers.
oh, there's more callers. Oh, wonderful. Okay, we'll continue with the callers.
Our next caller's name is Rob. Rob, you're now unmuted.
Welcome.
Good evening, CCC members. Thank you for devoting your time and being volunteers to make something work where other people are willing to push back and not allow it to work.
Sorry,
can you
sir,
hear
we
me?
need your address.
Oh, I thought you had that already. Rob Johnson, 16700 Southwest 83rd Avenue. Lifetime resident of Miami-Dade County, and happy to be here for almost 2 decades in Palmetto Bay. Going back, I just want to cite last evening because the public comments were allowed at the Village of Palmetto Bay's meeting where the members that were selected were handpicked. And if you go back and were to do a property records search on each of them, they live either on a cul-de-sac or nowhere that's going to be directly impacted by any traffic that would be a part of this hypothetical, theoretical induced demand. Completing the grid, as many people have pointed out, provides for a flow of water. And what happens with that flow of water, it seeks out the path of least resistance. And unfortunately, at the latitude, if you will, of 168th Street, you have US 1, you have not even 87th Avenue that should be connected this north to the south corridors, and then all the way over to Old Cutler. You provide that corridor, there's opportunity to go west out to US 1, out to the Florida Turnpike, east over to 82nd Avenue, east over 77th Avenue doesn't yet go through, but east over to Old Cutler. And we know that it's not just the road to nowhere as often hypothesized and theorized by those on the north side or their cul-de-sacs and private neighborhoods. Going back to the public comments, just wanted to cite that in fact that evening or last evening, it was 22 for, 13 against, and 1 undecided. And I gotta cite also that Waze is not the source of this traffic. The pandemic will be over soon enough. The building continues to our south. The traffic's going to increase, and it is time to build the bridge. And I support you guys.
Okay, Rob, thank you very much. That's your 2 minutes. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Beatrice. Beatrice, you're now unmuted.
Name and address for the record, please.
One 17251 Southwest 86th Avenue. I am a resident of Palmetto Bay, a resident of Miami since 1987. I moved to Marlbrook for the beautiful neighborhood that it is, the tranquility that we have. I disagree completely with 3 previous callers that one lives on 86, which is my neighbor, and 2 others on 84th Street. Since the studies of the bridges that promises us, as Michelle has been looking at, promises us that the traffic was going to flow much better, they both did not comply with it. the traffic had been worse. The traffic was better when we had the light on 87th Avenue and 168 and on 82nd Avenue. Therefore, if you're going to place your findings on studies that recommend this bridge, go back to the studies when the circles were telling us it was going to be the solution. Also, the lady from transportation from the Dade County told you a few minutes ago that all these studies have been done before the pandemic, and she went to the transportation area in 2018 with 2021. So they 30
seconds.
Time. Also, the TPO, as Michelle has said, had put this down, a majority down. So I don't know why this commissioner is bringing this up again.
Thank you so much for your time. Next caller, please.
The next speaker is a phone number. The phone number ends in 159. Caller, you are now unmuted.
Good evening. This is Adrian Enriquez at 18420 Southwest 87th Avenue. I spoke earlier. I just wanted to reiterate the point of if this bridge, let's see if it's constructed, how long till construction completion and it goes through this process. Are the models for the increased reduction forecasting with the population demand and increase south of the bridge at that point, or is it at the current levels, or from what I had heard earlier, the 2019 levels? It's something to consider, because by the time the bridge does get built, we may have lost all of the gains that we thought we were going to get. And then the second part is to consider is what is the remedy after that fact? What are you going to do to remedy the neighborhood that has been destroyed, in essence, for a failed project if it doesn't meet the metrics or standards that were projected or promised? And that's what needs to be considered, because every good project and every good plan has a fail contingency and a consideration of metrics of what it's projecting to hit as a success and what it's projecting to hit as a failure. And if we're not doing that beforehand, we are planning to fail, and that is 100% true. I've seen it throughout my life. That is the end. You can mute me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is it our last call, or do we have more?
We have
Two more. Okay, this will be the final two.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Our next speaker is James Anderson again. Mr. Anderson, you are now unmuted.
Hi, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, James Anderson again, 18025 Southwest 87th Court. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of rebuttal what was said earlier. It's not induced demand, it's called induced traffic. And it's a phenomenon that happens when people think that the traffic is good. So actually more people end up traveling because they think that traffic is better. Secondly, with the lighting situation, when I was actually, going to work and taking the train, would have to walk across 87th Avenue, typically early in the morning, no lights, have almost gotten hit a couple times. So that's why, I'm concerned about, what's going to be done about 87th Avenue if I'm having to cross the street and there's higher volumes of traffic. And with what the gentleman just said, yeah, I completely agree with the models. I mean, George Box, famous statistician, said, all models are wrong, but some are useful. Thank you.
Wonderful. And our final caller?
Our last speaker is Chris Person. You are now unmuted.
Okay, name and address for the record, please.
Chris Person, 17220 Southwest 84th Avenue.
Good evening, go ahead.
Okay, this bridge was recommended in 2014. It was recommended in 2016. It was recommended in 2018 by all of the experts. No one disagreed with this bridge going through. I submit that all of us enjoy the arterial roads like 77th Avenue And I submit when we want to go to US 1, we take 77. And I submit that none of us turn off for a little side trip to Pinecrest while we're on our way to Trader Joe's. We don't go to those little side streets just for the heck of it. We use the arterial roads because that's what they're there for. The arterial road, if it was not, these people may live next to a canal, but they don't live next to an island. They are not Fisher Island. They are not a Indian Creek. They are none of those things. That street is obviously built for and will retain and is up to code for traffic. I'm sorry if there's going to be traffic on it, but that's what it was designed for. And I question the property appraiser. I want to hold his feet to the fire. If he says that the property values will go up or go down, will that be reflected in their tax bill? Will he actually, if he says it's going to decrease, is he actually going to decrease their
30
taxes?
seconds.
Or if he says it's going to increase, will he increase their taxes? I fully support the bridge.
Thank you so much. Okay, that wraps up the calls you want to discuss as a committee. Michelle, go ahead.
Well, actually, I wanted to remind that we're at 8:42, so I don't think that we really should open up to a bunch of discussion for ourselves necessarily, except that I did want to make one point. I'm not discussing, I just want to answer a question that keeps getting asked,
Go ahead.
which is, why is this coming back up? The answer has to do with the timing of the TPO votes. For some reason, I won't question the reasons right now. For some reason, we voted on 87th Avenue. The TPO voted on 87th Avenue before the Metro Rail vote, before Kava was not able to get us the Metro Rail South, because her argument at the time, besides car isn't king, was that we weren't going to need this when everybody's riding the Metro. The Metro Rail was declined. Not only is it not being extended south, they just postponed it being extended north that they voted for. So I went down and took my own time, and I spoke in front of the TPO in favor of the Metro Rail extension as well. I am not a one solution person. I want all the solutions available. However, Metro is not coming. Y'all need to wrap your heads around for the foreseeable future. Metro's not coming. I'm not saying give up the fight. I'm fighting it with you, but it's not coming. So that's why we're having this conversation again. And had we had the Metro Rail vote first, you can bet your pants that the 87th Avenue vote would have been different.
Excellent. Leah, do you have anything that, and I know that we were going to close, but let's go ahead and.
I would just say that I think this keeps coming back up because it affects so many residents besides the Palmetto Bay residents. They seem to feel that it's their own village's problem, but it's not. It affects the Cutler Bay residents, and it affects all of the residents in the South Dade corridor that our commissioner represents. And it's her duty to represent the majority of her constituents. And I think that's what she's trying to do by bringing this up, is represent the majority of her constituents, not just the Palmetto Bay.
And it's amazing how many Palmetto Bay residents called in support of the bridge. That was.
And the numbers that Robert said from yesterday's meeting as well. But we need an agenda for.
Okay, well, we'll work on the agenda. Do you have anything you want to say? No.
I just wanted to ask you guys if you would review the outline that I started with.
Okay, so I had that. I just wanted to say real quick that in terms of property values, right? So we didn't get a real commitment from the property appraiser about what the impact would be. But think about the property values of all those residents that have speed bumps in front of the road. And I'm certain that if you were to look at the removal, that because of that how their property values would increase. So, individuals who say that, 87th Avenue, that they have an impact on the property. Well, what do you think a buyer sees when they see speed reduction devices on roadways? And so.
The home I owned on 84th Avenue has only gone up in value in the most recent years since the traffic has been going on. And I also printed out for you guys while I was driving this morning, I came across a property for sale on 82nd Avenue just south of 128th Street.
12821 Southwest A2 Ave.
Yes, and I called the realtor, and the realtor told me that the home was listed at 1.3 million, and they had multiple offers within the first day.
And that's $379 a square foot.
Yes, and that is in Pinecrest, but it is on an arterial road, well,
It-
two arterial roads.
It's actually two arterial roads
128, well, it's
and
like two
82nd Avenue.
houses- It's like two houses south of 128th Street, but I just wanted to point that out. So back to the agenda for next meeting and possibly this outline, if that's okay with you, I can start working on some of this stuff in the meantime and send a draft out and we can, add and change.
So as long as we keep sending information through Mr. Clayton, we can start working on this final report before we even get to the final meeting. Because some of this stuff we've had 3 meetings, so we have material to cover. Okay,
Are
so
there any changes you'd want me to make to the outline so that I could send that out tonight and then we can all start working on it? You can send information, I can add.
I think my opinion is send it out now, because as long as we keep putting him in the middle, we can make our changes.
He already has it. So
Okay.
I'll send the digital copy tonight if everyone's fine with it as is.
I don't want
We
to
can
be,
always change as we go.
I don't want to be
but
rushed
start.
looking at it now. It's a great start.
I'm also out of town next weekend, so it's kind of a little.
My question to Michelle is that we heard a lot of experts tonight. And do you, and what you prepared, are able to update based on the reductions, what the person from Public Works had mentioned, the representative, about those numbers, and so that right now, those outside of hearing from, those are the numbers. Those are the latest numbers. So what they've done is what the Public Works representative said to us. That,
So
were you able to capture that?
I got it. She's been
I can
madly
also
scribbling.
Rewatch the video.
Okay.
This is my plan, which is why I wanted to get started on it this weekend.
Wonderful.
For next week's agenda, I would again recommend that we start with the experts. I'm sorry, sir. Did I interrupt you?
No.
Oh, okay. Please speak up, because I do talk a lot. It's been said. It's true. I'll admit that. Okay. Should we recommend that we go ahead and start with the experts again next week?
Yes. I agree.
Okay, what was that?
Should we start with the experts as our first item of agenda?
Sure.
Okay,
So then we'll have the two representatives from the traffic report engineers, traffic engineers, and then Ed Silva. If he
Oh,
agrees.
yes. And then I'd like to reserve time at the end of the experts in case I find any more material that is source or study.
Absolutely.
I'd like to be able to present that after the experts.
Okay.
And then I'm afraid that I think we should leave the public commentary to the last. Otherwise, it might continue to take too much time that we won't be able to do what we need to do with the
So
report.
let me ask, is that we've had public commentary tonight, how is that gonna impact our ability to do the report? I would rather that the experts, the viewers at home see them, that we don't take any time away from having SMEs come before us with public commentary.
So
What are your thoughts?
definitely, I'm sorry, does somebody want to respond first? I'm really bad about it. I really am. Okay.
I missed the question.
I think he was suggesting skipping public commentary, to which I would
I don't
disagree.
think we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, I disagree. Mr. Clayton says we're not allowed, even though it may not affect our report, and you're right. There's a second purpose to this, and that is, the second purpose is that they want the public commentary, even though it won't necessarily affect the report.
Let's limit public
That's fine.
comment to 30 minutes.
Okay, that's fine also.
If
That's,
we have additional time, we can give.
and I'm not against suppressing the, free speech, the ability to ask questions, but I don't want it with the hour and a half that we have left to knock out a report. I'd rather us be able to discuss what's going to be in the report so that it doesn't necessarily have to be an email that, listen, this is what we want to have in the report. And
Well, also, if we have, since we can go back and forth through Mr. Clayton, we can have most of this final report done so that perhaps we're just taking turns reading The time that we would normally have for discussion, like if we were going to do 10 minutes each, honestly, could be incorporated into the report.
Yeah, I'm gonna start working on this and send you guys a draft by like Monday, and then we can comment on that. And obviously, the things that we're still waiting to hear from, I'm not gonna write about yet. So I'm
Right.
just gonna add to this in the meantime.
So perhaps we do the public commentary for after we've done the report, and that should, and then do a half hour of public comments and then give us time to respond to the public comments. Mr. Click, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, just to let you guys know, although the March 4th is the final meeting, you still have a few days, which is up to March 9th for final submission to our office.
Okay.
So that should allow you time to go back and forth through me, obviously, because of sunshine, but to kind of get most of everything kind of ironed out. So just to note, like, it doesn't have to be done that final night. You still have a few more days over the weekend to get it done, okay?
But I'm out of town that weekend.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I'm just thinking that perhaps our own personal commentary may not have the same language as our final report. So we should have some time for us to have comments. He's nodding his head, to have comments in addition. So maybe the question is, do we want to have time to speak before or after public commentary? I think before. 'Cause
Maybe we'll have the speech after public commentary because there may be some individuals who make a point and you want to rebut it and, you know,
Start off at 30 minutes, and we'll do what we need to do after. If we need to extend the next meeting a little bit, then we might have to do that.
exactly. I don't think we're time certain 9 o'clock. I mean, that's the general guidelines, but
There we go. Okay, so if
Yeah.
we need more time besides a half hour, we can add it on afterwards. So then that means agenda wise, we're having experts and then time for opinions
He's writing it down.
and then report
Mhm.
and then public commentary and then additional response if we feel necessary. Does that sound right?
Did you get that, Sandy? Okay.
experts, then
Personal opinion,
opinions, then public commentary.
public commentary,
Okay, and then
then the report.
the report. Okay,
Yeah, he just flipped it. Public commentary and then the report.
Okay.
The final report being the final thing. That
okay.
makes
So
sense.
what do we have? So just so we can go over, there were some county departments we didn't hear from. Like I know the police department was supposed to get back by next meeting with us. Representative from the fire department,
Next week we have.
transit, did we?
We already did transit.
That was,
Okay,
so we have fire next time, Kimley, Horn, Corradino, and Ed Silva.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, we're right at 8:55. I just want to again thank the Town of Cutler Bay, Manager Casales, and your staff for the outstanding hospitality. We certainly, again, I said, feel at home. To the mayor and the commission for continuing this and utilizing town resources so that we can finish the work as directed by the commissioner. And I wish you all a very wonderful evening, and we'll be back here again next week. Thank you.